Okay, let's choose up. I'll take Jamal and Tutal. You can have Chubbs and Skippy. Let's go. My ball.
Okay. But you got skins.
Not a good negotiator? You don't have to be a good negotiator at McCarthy Chevrolet. McCarthy guarantees the lowest prices on a new Chevy or we'll pay you $10,000. We guarantee there's no need to shop anyplace else. McCarthy Chevrolet, I-35 and Santa Fe, Olathe.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the Midwest #1 weekly motorsports show, Track Talk, on the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network. Brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. Once again, here's Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Track Talk here on RacinBoys Radio. I'm Scott, along with Kirk Elliott, Todd Surprise. And this is the hour where it always gets a little more interesting. And we want to thank Marty Smith for being on board with us here in hour number 1. You know, I had a lot of questions to ask Marty and didn't get to a damn one of them hardly because we got to talking about the business side of NASCAR, and I find that very intriguing and very interesting.
Now I'm curious, what are the questions that didn't get asked?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Well, I wanted to ask him, you know, we talked about it a little bit in hour number 1 about Dale Earnhardt Jr., being unsponsored for 13 races. Marty Smith has a great relationship with Mr. H and Dale Earnhardt Jr., good friends. So I would have liked to hear his take on the possibilities of him actually racing those 13 races without a sponsor, which I think are slim to none.
I'd be shocked if they go into the season and they don't get that all wrapped up in some fashion. I mean, Dale Jr., the most popular driver in all of NASCAR, voted how many times the biggest star of the sport?
Right.
If he can't fill out his sponsorship list, I think you're right. It has more to do with getting the right set of they can be picky and choosy with Dale Jr., getting the right combination of sponsors.
Chemistry. You want long. Listen,
you know how to put anybody on the car just for Dale Jr.
And it's the same on the local level. We're going to get into local racing in hour number 2 like we always do. Hey, guys, everybody, welcome on the chat room. We'll get to some of your things that you want to talk about, but it's like anything. It's like our relationship with McCarthy Chevrolet in this show.
Right.
You know, it was that way with, let's be fair, it was that way with Praxair Distribution back. They were our sponsor for 10 years. You want to have that kind of relationship where you believe in each other. We believe in McCarthy Chevrolet. I'm a Chevrolet guy. So it makes a natural fit for us. Brian Schaefer is a NASCAR fan, the general manager of the McCarthy Auto Group. He's a big NASCAR fan and a friend of Clint Boyer's. They support local racing McCarthy Chevrolet better than any dealership in this area. You know, they sponsor I-35. They sponsor Lakeside. They sponsor the Midwest Lightning Sprints. They sponsor us, our TV show over there on Metro Sports. They're into it. They get it. That's why they're a great fit for us, and that's why we want to be a part of what McCarthy Chevrolet does and why we believe in them and their products so much is because it is a natural fit, as it was with Praxair Distribution with Mark Adams as our man over there for so many years. You know, for so many years, people thought of Praxair, they thought of the RacinBoys, and vice versa. When you thought about the RacinBoys, you thought about Praxair. And we're in that stage with McCarthy Chevrolet now. And you want long-term relationships, and that's because you believe in what they're giving as a product, and it's easy for us to sell. And that's what Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Rick Hendrick want. They want somebody that really fits Dale Earnhardt Jr., that has the right chemistry to where you can have that long-term relationship and stability in your, like our business, like his race team.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, we want to represent McCarthy Chevrolet. When we have them as our title sponsor, it is a long-term relationship that we want to work with and grow with. And when you think of McCarthy Chevrolet, you think of the RacinBoys and vice versa. And that's what we're all about. And the thing about McCarthy Chevrolet is they're great supporters of grassroots racing. They have been for many years. And, you know, out at Lakeside Speedway and some other events.
There's an echo in here, isn't there, Todd?
But no, I'm just repeating what you're saying.
I know you're repeating what I'm just saying.
I'm just, you know, and I want to repeat what you're saying.
Okay.
because I want it to come out of my mouth too.
All right.
But
okay.
it is that.
Okay.
It is the that long-term relationship
Right,
and growing with these partners.
Yep. And again, we are proud to be a part of McCarthy Chevrolet. Check them out at kccars.com. And as we announced in hour number 1, McCarthy Chevrolet has re-signed with Track Talk. So, and as I said in hour number 1, we also want to welcome to the McCarthy family Carl Kramer, who is our direct contact when it comes to the marketing and management of the media that's going on around here in Kansas City. So we want to thank him so much for believing us as well, because he's new to the team and really doesn't know the RacinBoys, and he's a racing fan. Goes to NHRA races, goes to NASCAR races. He's a GM guy too. That's what I like about him. He's been with GM a long time, so he's a good fit with us here at RacinBoys.com. What?
Well, yeah, we were talking, and Marty Smith brought this up in the last segment about business relationships and the vendor aspect of the sponsorships. And the first person I was thinking of was Brian Brown with the FVP sponsorship and him bringing on Casey's General Stores,
right?
And how that relationship has worked for his business. And that's what everything is going towards now, the return on investment for these sponsors and the relationships that they have with the vendors and bringing in other aspects of the business to help them sell product.
Let's be fair. We have that same relationship with Lucas Oil as well on our sprint car side of doing our sprint car stuff that we do. So Hollywood Bob says, what did he say here? He said something about Rick Hendrick and his money. Oh, maybe Hendrick wants too much money. I would say there's probably a little truth to that when it comes to Dale Earnhardt Jr. I would imagine that if you go to Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Rick Hendrick and their team of business people to make the decisions on how much money is spent to sponsor Dale Earnhardt Jr., I would say his price is a little inflated compared to most.
Well, as it should be.
Well,
he's
won
the
cash
a lot of
cow.
championships. We've got to put Dale Jr. in. He's going to command a lot of money.
Let's be fair. They got rid of one of maybe the greatest drivers that's ever going to strap in a NASCAR car, Kyle Busch, to bring Dale Earnhardt Jr. over there. And let's also be fair. Most people thought that was kind of crazy, to be honest with you, because they look at the talent level of Kyle Busch and the upside of his success that could happen compared to where Dale Earnhardt Jr. is. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., though very successful and an accomplished driver, obviously a championship contender, we saw that this year, he's not Kyle Busch, but he gets the dollars. He brings in the revenue, and I think that's the number one thing.
That's what it's all about. Kyle Busch just cannot command the kind of value for sponsors that Dale Jr. can. There's just no way that's going to happen. And I don't care if Kyle Busch goes out and wins 3 or 4 championships down the road. He's not going to command those kinds of dollars and attention that Dale Jr. can get for sponsors.
I'm not going to say that he can't demand, because I got to believe over a period of time, if Dale Earnhardt Jr. doesn't come a more consistent contender for the championship. He had his great year last year. Let's be fair now. He did everything he was supposed to do just about as a driver to run for that championship, and was up. Where did he end up in the points, Kurt? You remember off the top of your head?
Can't remember right off the top of my head where he did end up.
But anyway, long story short is Kyle Busch gets a multi-year extension with Joe Gibbs Racing, and I'm sure that he demanded.
He ended up 12th, didn't he?
Who, Junior?
Yeah, Junior, because he sat out 2 races.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Remember?
That's right.
So, he ended up 12th.
Yeah. So, anyway, long story short, I think there will become a time when Kyle Busch will demand the same amount of money as Dale Earnhardt Jr., though. I do believe that. Because I believe that over a period of time, I believe that Kyle Busch will be more successful, a lot more successful, than Dale Earnhardt Jr. And if Dale Earnhardt Jr. can't be consistent on his wins and runs for championships, and wins is more important than anything, that over a period of time, the support will erode a little bit. It will not be as easy to demand the mega dollars that it is right now. He's riding on his popularity right now, but I think over a period of time that will erode down to everybody else's level.
But Kyle Busch's reputation in the past when it comes to sponsorships and representing his sponsors has been tarnished. And I don't know as you ever get that back 100%.
Kirk,
I don't care how well he does.
So tarnished that all of his sponsors have re-signed, and he just
all
got
his current sponsors have re-signed. But what about any potential new sponsors down the road that's seen what's happened in the past? They don't want to have anything to do with any.
Kirk, as long as he's got
Busch,
Kirk
has tarnished Kyle Busch's image to a certain degree.
Listen, as long as Kyle Busch has the sponsors that he has, M&M's, are you kidding me? That's a huge sponsor, one of the most coveted sponsors in the garage.
And they've re-signed.
M&M's, are you? It's
But
crazy.
you-
I mean,
you're
go
sa-
back to the history of M&M's. Back when Kenny Schrader drove the M&M's car for MB2, this is a coveted sponsor, and they have stayed with him. Monster Energy Drink, what a natural fit for him in the Nationwide Series. So there is people that believe in Kyle Busch.
And it's not an issue if he keeps those sponsors for the rest of his career. But to say that he will match whatever Dale Jr. has been able to generate as far as ad dollars and sponsorship,
no.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't
care
think
how
he'll ever
well he
catch
does.
him. I don't think he'll ever catch the amount of money that Dale Earnhardt's made, because Dale Earnhardt here in the last 10 years has really cashed in. But I think there'll be a time when they balance themselves out. There's going to be a point to where Kyle Busch can demand the same kind of money as Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And this goes back to
And I may be totally off base there, but
this goes back to what you and I were discussing.
Hollywood Bob
yesterday.
said he made me quit eating M&Ms.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But this goes back to what you and I were talking about yesterday, and this is not just sponsorship for NASCAR teams, but sponsorships as a whole for any race teams or anything that's going on today.
Right.
In light of what's happened with the economy, anybody that spends money for advertising dollar is going to want return on their investment. The days of just going out and contributing money to somebody's enterprise just because they like them and the economy's great, we got some extra money to spend, and we like what they're doing. Those days are over. When you spend money for advertising, you want return on your investment, and they want results. They want to sell product, and everybody's got to work harder to maintain sponsorships, and I don't care what level of racing it is.
I agree. Getting the product off the shelf. That's the number one thing. No doubt.
And representation.
Creative marketing is where it's at right now.
That's it.
And you brought up a person here just a little bit ago that is probably the best at it in our area.
Brian Brown.
Brian Brown.
Absolutely.
No doubt. I'll just say this. I would say that he is better at what he does than anybody in our market.
I would agree with that.
And maybe in his industry of sprint car racing could be one of the top 5 or 10 drivers in the industry of sprint car racing when it comes to servicing his sponsors, getting corporate sponsors' involvement.
Brian Brown might be the best business racer there is out there in all of sprint car racing. Just the way he's been able to package these deals together with FVP and Casey's to make that work. He saw how that could work,
best.
And he's gone out and made that happen.
I would call Tony Stewart the best, Casey Kane the best.
Well, I'm talking in terms of the resources available. Brian Brown finished almost winning the Knoxville Nationals, for crying out loud. That was a huge accomplishment, what he did last summer at Knoxville for his team that is not funded like Tony Stewart's teams or Casey Kane's teams, and he doesn't run full-time on the World of Outlaw circuit. For him to put that deal together, go up there and almost win the Knoxville Nationals, and he very easily could have done so, is a very impressive way that he has been able to put his business plan together and make that work for him.
We're going to have Rick Salem from the United Rebel Sprint Car Series is going to be joining us here in a little bit. We'll be talking about what's going on with them this year. As most people know, we broadcast all the races live on RacinBoys.com. Michael Wilson leads that broadcast for us. It's going to be their second year of their races live on Racing Boys. And don't forget, we're going to be doing our first paid-per-view event of the Lucas Oil ASCS National Sprint Car Tour in Tucson, Arizona, Tucson International Raceway Park, formerly known as USA Raceway. We've been out there several times with the National Sprint Car Tour. They had the Copper Classic as well as the Western World out there for a couple years. They have moved that to Canyon. They have some great new people running the racetrack out there at Tucson, so we're looking forward to doing that. Again, that is February 22nd and 23rd. You can see it all live on RacinBoys.com. Jeff Converse from High Vista Video is going to be helping us out with the video there. And $15 a day or $25 for both days. We hope that you guys tune in and listen.
It is a fun racetrack. I'll tell you what, Tucson International Raceway is one of the most exciting racetracks there is.
Fast racetrack. Fast.
Can be out there with us. Make sure you're tuned in.
It's going to be good. It'll be Kirk's going to come out there with us, and Todd's going to be out, and Scotty Cook's going to be pit reporting. Brian Holbert will be making the call. I'll anchor the broadcast. Should be a lot of fun. And, folks, I will tell you, we are negotiating right now on maybe doing a couple area pay-per-view events. Nothing can be announced. I can't say any more than that. But we are having some formal discussions about the possibility of some pay-per-view events with the national tour here on the local level. They will be blacked out, though, if we do them here on the local within 250 miles of the racetrack. So there's a little teaser right there. Kirk, let's move into more local racing because, well, that's what we love, grassroots dirt racing. That's our favorite thing to talk about.
No news from Lakeside Speedway yet?
In fact, it's funny that you bring that up. Last night, about, I don't know, I put a call into Mike Johnson yesterday, yesterday morning to see where we were at about him coming on the show and where we were at as purchasing the racetrack as far as Mike Johnson and his partner, Don Mars. Kyle, his lovely wife, Kyle Johnson, answered the phone, said that Mike was in a meeting right now, and she did not tell me this, but my gut tells me he's in a meeting about this racetrack, getting it purchased.
The closing. And we were told it would likely be towards the end of January, so that's what we were thinking.
Right.
It was getting close.
And there has been a few people that are kind of privileged to the information a little bit that said that they thought they might have it closed by the end of the week. So that was another reason to put in the call. And anyway, long story short is they are very, very, very close. Kyle called me last night about 7:30 or so.
Now, I hadn't heard about that conversation.
No,
she called you after we talked.
Right.
Yeah.
And she told me that it's all but done. And I would expect Mike Johnson to be on the show next week, from what Kyle told me. She was hopeful that Mike will be on here. And again, the reason we haven't brought Mike on since the announcement that Lakeside Speedway is being purchased by him and his wife and Don Mars is because we wanted to make sure when it was all said and done, we could ask all the questions, not just the standard, what are you going to do? You're going to clean it up. You're going to fix the wall. We want to get into the meats and potatoes of this deal.
Yeah, because it's really hard for them to definitively answer any questions until they've actually got the keys to the property and it's closed and it's a done deal and they can get on there and do what they want.
And one of the questions I want to ask Mike Johnson is, what is he going to do different when it comes to his philosophy and how he runs that track compared to Mark Olson? I want to know what he's going to do to make that place more successful than it was in 2012. And again, let's be fair. 2012, Lakeside attendance was way down. Not just a little down. It was way down. Kirk, would I be wrong if I was to guesstimate that attendance was down from, let's say, when the economy really started to fall apart at the end of 2007, right before 2008, when and again, this is kind of that Justin Isaacs column, documents when the economy and motorsports and all this. At that moment in 2007, roughly, let's say, I talked to Mark Olson, and Mark Olson told me, without giving me an exact number, I said, what do you average out here in Mark, attendance-wise? Sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat here I'm trying to deal with. I asked him, what's your attendance? And you know promoters, they are not quick to tell you how many people they get in there.
They'll undersell it.
They undersell it. They definitely don't want you to know. And he told me, I said, is it between $2,000 and $2,500 a week? He says, that's pretty close right there. So I'm just going to call it $2,000 a week. All right, let's keep it on the low end of that. What I said, $2,000. I said $2,000, $2,500. Lakeside probably holds $3,000, maybe.
That would be the very maximum number of people I think you could put in there.
So if you put
in the grandstands.
And let's be fair, Kirk. We know enough about this industry, and since I've been a promoter for the last couple of years, that 2,000 is a smoking number.
That's a big crowd.
No, for a weekly show, folks, that is a smoking number. I would take 2,000 at every one. If you said, Scott, you're going to promote these sprint car races, and we're going to just get, you can't have more than 2,000, but we'll guarantee you 2,000 every time, I'd take it right now. Guarantee
That's a big crowd.
It's a big crowd.
When you go up and look at a grandstand of your local racetrack, people have a tendency to overestimate how big of a crowd it is. I'm going to tell you something. 1,000 people
is a pretty good crowd.
Is a pretty good crowd. 2,000, you double that.
Right.
Most racetracks can't seat that amount of people.
Well, this brings me back to what we were going to talk about here, though. At the end of the year, Kirk, I bet there was a night or two that they barely broke 1,000 people.
Yeah, right at the end of the year, and I don't know whether the live television had that kind of an impact. It was a hot summer when they started televising these races live in July. I don't think it affected the crowd. The crowds were lots bigger in July than they were at the end of the year, but when it got really hot, and even after they quit the live television run, the crowds just didn't come back. But it really tailed off about the middle of August. And it just wasn't the same. At the beginning of the season, there was good turnouts, good crowds at the beginning of the season. But it certainly wasn't there at the end, as you pointed out.
Kirk, I think, again, and I hate to keep spewing the same old thing, but I think a combination happened there. First of all, I think Mark lost a little credibility, if you want to be fair, when he sent that letter down to the drivers a couple of years ago and said that there isn't going to be any point fund money, and didn't address the drivers face-to-face instead of sending them a note down with their check a few weeks before the end of the season. You know and I know how disappointed the drivers were about that because, well, we had some on this show. We talked to them privately. They were pretty ticked off about that. That was the moment. That was the deciding moment when things really started heading the wrong direction. They see the attendance down this year at the end of the year, and they're hearing these rumors that, it ain't very good for Mark. And maybe they started thinking, well, we're not going to get any more point fund money this year, which, by the way, happened. No point fund again this year. And we've said this since Mark has been the promoter out at Lakeside Speedway, that he's the man behind the curtain. He's the man that doesn't go down and talk to the drivers. He stays in the building. He watches from above. He lets his crew handle it. He lets his competition director handle it. He lets his track management handle it. And if there's any questions, they radio up to the big tower, the man behind the curtain type syndrome. And then Mark will make a decision. And I think being a hands-off, and when I say hands-off, obviously Mark had his hands on day-to-day operations. But when I say hands-off, shaking hands with the drivers, going down in the pits, telling the drivers, thanks for coming this week, and doing that on a weekly basis. I think that was probably the number one complaint I heard of Mark Olson, is that he didn't ever come down and talk to the people, that they didn't feel connected to the people. And I think that's where Mike Johnson is going to excel. He's going to be down there. You're going to see him working the track. You're going to see him down there in the pit, shaking hands, thinking, kissing babies, shaking hands, all that kind of stuff. Because that's what he does up at I-35 Speedway. And if you're one of the people in the chat room right now, tell me what you think about that. Is that important to you as an individual to know your promoter and know that he has an open ear that you can bend and talk to and get your point across, or your feelings or an idea or something like that, is how important is that to the people that participate, sit in the grandstands? What the hell? How hard would it be to go down and walk up and down behind the grandstands 2 or 3 times? And Kirk, you know how it is. We walk up and down behind the grandstands. People want to talk. If Mark Olson was just to walk around behind the grandstands, go down by the concession stand, people are buying, maybe go up there, hand them a hot dog or two, and tell them, hey, this one's on me. Thanks for coming once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
don't you think that was his biggest mistake?
I think so. After the flood, now I'll tell you, the flood was a devastating event.
But Kirk,
for
he's
Mark
this
Olson.
been that way since 2000.
But the crowds tailed off even more so this year than they ever have been, and I think the flood had a dramatic impact on his fan base. Now, many of them came back at the beginning of the year to see what's going on, but when it got hot and the live television happened, people didn't come back at the end of the year, and of course they started hearing rumors about maybe the track being sold. People just got out of the habit of coming back, and Mark Olson did not do the things that you just described after the flood to try to win those fans back.
Kirk, he didn't do this before. It's from the moment he purchased the racetrack.
Yeah, but he still drew good crowds before that. He drew great crowds.
Yeah, I know it, but you know what? That was the excitement.
But he did for many years. Many years he operated the way you described, but he was still drawing people to the racetrack. The racing was good. The product was good. Even last year, the racing was good out on the racetrack.
But Kirk, from year 2, that rumbling was going around that they'd like to see more of Mark. Here's some of the comments on
that. But that had nothing to do with the fan turnout.
I think it does.
I think so. After the flood, it did, when he didn't go down and try to win a lot of those fans, didn't actively go out and win a lot of those fans back. I think by that time he was thinking, I want to move on. And so he didn't put out that kind of an effort to do so. And I just think the flood had more to do with the fan turnout going down this year than anything that happened. The flood had more to do with that.
Here's some comments like from Clint Brown. Saying thank you to the drivers is a big thing. Show them a little appreciation, and they will show it back. Hollywood Bob, he said, I used to do that before the races. Steve says on here, I don't remember seeing Mark, and that's an unusual thing. I've seen promoters and owners at many, many tracks I've been to. Mark was a ghost, Steve adds.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of what everybody is saying. But when you talk in terms of how dramatically the crowd fell off at the end of this past season, I don't think that part of it had that much to do with it. I think the flood, live television, and the hot weather had more to do with crowds tailing off dramatically at the end of the season.
3364, if you could, try to put a name in there. I don't care if it's a fake name or not, but I hate calling you by a number on here, a generic number. But 3364 says, absolutely it is. You feel valued and appreciated. It's very respectful. But for many, many years at Lakeside, that has not happened. Yeah. It's always a negative and only biased or based on drivers and owners, but not to all. So
it is important that the promoter is visible, is down in the pits, and thanks the drivers, shows appreciation, and all of these things. But you know what the number one ingredient is to having a successful race operation?
What's that?
Is a promoter following through and doing what that promoter says he's going to do, and puts out a level playing field to give everybody an opportunity to come and compete and win.
How about promoting?
Mark Olson did a good job of promoting his racetrack for many, many years. He was great at that. Marketing-wise and promoting his racetrack, he did a great job.
He was not a dummy when it comes to marketing.
Yeah,
Mark is a smart guy.
The promotion aspect of it, he did very well.
Mark is a very smart guy. But when the dollars were thin and he wasn't able to promote, by the commercial spots, by the radio buys, that hurt him as well.
I want to take this discussion, and as you started, what happens now? What will Mike Johnson do that Mark Olson didn't do it as you asked the right question. And I think to get the best answer for that is to see what he has done at I-35 Speedway, see how he handles himself there. There are two things that come to my mind. Mike Johnson will be as visible as any promoter you've ever seen. He'll be in the crowd, he'll be in the pits, he'll be everywhere. If you need something from the promoter, you're going to be able to find Mike Johnson. Number two, the curb appeal of the racetrack. If you go to I-35 Speedway and you see all of the improvements that's been done at that racetrack and how clean that facility is, he's going to bring that to Lakeside Speedway. Lakeside Speedway is going to have more curb appeal, and he's going to put great effort into sprucing that facility up. Why do I say that? Just look what he's done at I-35 Speedway. He's going to do that at Lakeside Speedway. So those two things are the biggest aspects of what Mike Johnson will bring to Lakeside Speedway. Now, the thing that is the biggest challenge to what he has going forward is bringing the fan base back to Lakeside Speedway. And that's going to take a lot of legwork and a lot of promotion, and a lot of extra resources is going to have to be spent to get those people back, the fan base that carried that racetrack for many, many years. He's got to try to go out and win those fans back and get them back on a regular basis.
Well, and I think having Don Mars as his partner is going to be add even more credibility to the program. And a lot of people like Don Mars, and I think that's going to be a big deal. So I think if the tag team duo of Mike Johnson, along with Don Mars, and then the assistance of Mike's wife, Kyle, which I think don't underestimate her input and what she does. Kyle Johnson is probably one of the most intelligent women you'll ever meet. A very, very smart woman. And she plays a huge part in the success of I-35. So don't count her out. She's definitely going to have her she stands behind her man, but at the same time, she is willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with him and help him make the right decisions along the way because of her knowledge of just being a smart person, really.
And I assume Mike Knight will still be involved in preparing that racetrack.
Let's hope so.
I hope so. I think that's a big thing. If you can continue to have Mike Knight prepare that racetrack, he knows what he's doing in that area. That is a great decision that they will have made to keep the transition going smoothly here.
All right. Oh, what happened there, Todd? Whatever you turned up. Is that the phone? And we got Rick on the line?
Rick's on the line.
All right. You need to turn your mic down. All right, let's bring Rick Salem up right now. Kirk, you need to go in there and fix whatever that audio problem we're having right now. Rick, how you doing? Well, how about this? How about now, Brown Cow? I got it now. Hey, Rick Salem from the United Rebel Sprint Car Series joins us on the show. Rick, you there?
Yes, I am. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing good, bud. How you doing?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm out here in Colorado at the Oval Track Trade Show right now. And so far, we got a good crowd, and everything's a fun time so far.
You know what it was? Hold on one second here, Rick. I punched up the wrong button. That was the problem in here. So, okay, well, Rick, the announcement, your schedule came out for United Rebel Sprint Car Series, which you can hear live, every one of those races, courtesy of our young, talented announcer and yourself, Michael Wilson. The schedule came out this week. It looks like, again, popularity of the United Rebel Sprint Car Series is right where it's always been.
Well, yeah, we've got a good schedule put together, and we appreciate what you guys do out there in RacinBoys. Promote, racing all over the country, but especially the help you give us with the URSS.
Yeah. Well, let's go over your schedule a little bit. Take us from the first date and just kind of let's touch on a couple of your big ones.
Okay. We open our first dates in Beaver County Raceway in Beaver, Oklahoma. We call it, or they call it, the Cow Chip Nationals.
Right.
They have a big cow chip festival down there, and we're happy to be a part of that. That race will pay $1,000 to win and $200 to start, and we're real excited about that deal. It's always a good way to open the season on a good show like that.
Cow Chip Nationals.
I love
Cow
that.
Chip Nationals.
How about that right there, man? You've got to love that. And let's talk about the cars that are running. Everything's the same. The rules hasn't changed any, have they?
Well, the only changes we did make this year, we did a whole lot of testing on the Race Saver and the ASCS spec head. So we are going to allow them to run with us this year. We've dynoed several motors and done changes, and they're within 5-10 horsepower of each other. So we just to try to move towards a direction to kind of unite this whole deal and get everybody sort of on the same page. We've allowed them guys to run, but other than that, our rules. We also went to the medium tire, which most everybody's running ASCS. Everybody, so they don't have to have a special tire to come run with us. So, like I said, hopefully we can draw some out-of-state cars to some of these bigger shows and show them what URSS racing's all about.
I know that, as being a part of a 305 team, we're very disappointed that LA Raceway decided to drop that class down there. And hopefully some of the guys that run from this area will come and run with United Rebel Sprint Car Series. Let me ask you a question, Rick, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here a little bit, but I'm going to ask you this question. The Race Saver Sprint cars down south seem to be getting very popular down there. Have you had conversations with those folks? Is there any way that we can build a Rebel Series car, support your series like we want to? Is there any conversation between you and them? Is there any way that we can make it where we can go and race with each other?
Well, I have talked to Brian Holbert, and Emmett with the ASCS. We are allowed to run with them guys. Our biggest difference that we have right now is the wing size.
Because they're on a 25,
and they're on a 25 square foot wing.
Right.
And I've got really, I don't feel these things need 25 square foot of wing. They're just locks them down so hard that it pulls the guts out of these 305 motors.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes away from the driving a little bit. So, and all our drivers that have had put on and done both with the big wing and the little wing, they prefer the little wing. They feel it frees the car up, makes it a lot more fun to drive, and it's just not as hard on parts.
And I understand that. I do get that. But at the same time, you like to see a little more. I would like to see, because you guys don't make it to the Kansas City area very often. See, we have to pull quite a ways out there. What is the closest you get to Kansas City, by the way? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Probably Belleville.
Belleville. How many hours how far is Belleville from here?
What's that, about 2.5, 3 hours away?
From Kansas City? Is that about right? Yeah. Probably 2.5, 3 hours?
I would say it's probably 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly, but it's on the eastern part of Kansas, so you're probably not any more than 3 hours away, which I don't think is a hard pull at all.
But it's really asking some of your drivers that are from Colorado or what have you, or out in the middle of Kansas, it's really asking them a little bit too much to try to pull all the way to Kansas City, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. With the price of fuel, this fuel deal is pretty much hurting everybody.
Right.
And these guys race on a budget and they work for a living. It makes it tough on them to travel, a great distance. We still do quite a little bit of traveling, and the guys are real good about doing it. But I try to get as many 2-day shows put together where they can kind of get at least 2 days of racing in. That makes it a little easier for them on the pocketbook as far as fuel-wise.
Rick Salem of the United Rebel Sprint Series is joining us. Rick, what is the biggest roadblock to 305 sprint car racing really coming together, and how much that would help your series if we had standardized rules all across the board in 305 racing?
I think, it's bound to help. We're on the World Product Steelhead, which, like I say, we've done considerable dyno testing on it, and they are extremely comparable. So, I don't know. I'd like to see an either-or deal because, I mean, these heads are $275 a piece as opposed to about $1,800 or so for the aluminum heads. And you don't have to, I mean, you buy the head certified, and it doesn't, if you have to do anything to it ever, it doesn't have to go all the way back to Virginia.
Right.
And that's the stickler with us on that deal, is it's just easier to...
The turnaround is quicker, right?
Yeah, the turnaround's quicker. You know, by the time you hurt a head and you need it welded up or something for an aluminum head, you got to, you know, you basically got to take it and put it in an oven first, and all the seats fall out of it, valve seats, and then have it welded up, and then have it remachined, then have it reheated to put all the valve seats and everything back in the thing, and then it's got to go all the way back to Virginia to be teched. So basically, if you want to stay racing week in and week out, you got to have two sets of them heads.
Yeah.
Yeah. How difficult is it to get other organizations that run 305 sprints to go along with that? And would it be the best for your series if there were, in terms of car count and everything else about growing your series, that everybody was working off the same set of rules?
Well, I agree. You know, I'd like to see that, and that's one reason we are allowing it to the either or head. We give the guys the option this year to run either the Race Saver engine or the ASCS spec head.
But they have to. But they have to run the 16 square wing regardless.
Yeah, if they come run with us, that's just one of the deals that I don't think I'm going to bend on, because it's just I just don't think these 305s need 25 square foot of wing. We've proven it time after time by the show that we put on. I don't know how many races we have that's finished on the last lap, and in the past we've had, you know, last year I think we only had 17, but in the past we usually averaged 20 different winners a year. So the parity's there, and like I say, it's just something that my drivers don't want to do, and I think it, you know, it takes the money out of the deal when you don't plant the car so hard and have to have all the dollars in your motor.
Right. Your wing philosophy makes so much sense. I can't imagine why anyone would want to run the big wings. Why do these other series insist on running these bigger wings?
Because they look like more conventional. I think I think that's the real reason, isn't it?
That, and I hear a whole lot to these guys, well, we can go buy a used wing from the ASCS guys or from the Outlaws and run that deal. And it's cheaper. The wings are cheaper that way if we can buy a used one. But you know as well as I do, you can't find a whole lot of good used wings out there. Most of them, people replace wings because they tear them up.
All right.
And just the difference in the cost of the engine to put that extra 9 square foot of wing on there is tremendous.
And we're talking mostly on the lower end of these motors too, the crank and the rods in them, because it loads them so hard, and it, you know.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, and we've got guys out here that's run 305 cast cranks for several years.
Right.
And you put 25 square foot of wing on there, that cast crank, you might as well throw it away before you ever put it in.
What's your average car count, you reckon, for the year?
I think last year we averaged about 22 cars. We were down a little bit.
That's pretty good, though.
I think everybody's down, you know, as far as car count.
No, I agree. But listen, you don't need too many as well. It's just like in the Lucas Oil National Tour, they averaged 37 cars a race. Perfect. Because the year they averaged 55, I hated it. And a lot of good cars don't make the show when that happens as well, when you have too many cars. So
Exactly.
Hey, before we let you go, Rick, and I appreciate you taking the time, looks like you're going to be going to Dodge City Raceway Park quite a bit. Tommy Estes is believing in what the United Rebel Sprint Car Series is doing.
Yeah, Tommy is. I mean, Tommy's been around this a long time. He really has seen what the show we put on, the caliber of racing that it is, and Tommy's a real big supporter of us. I mean, I appreciate everything Tommy does. He's really been a good asset to have for us out here. And I wanted to let everybody know, too, we're having a speed week where we have 7 races in 9 days.
Nice.
It starts in Dodge City on July 26th, and then we go 3 days at the Five Stakes Fair in Liberal, Kansas. And we run Saturday, Sunday, Monday there.
And then you go to
we got a day
Waukegan.
off, and we go to Waukegan, Kansas, Waukegan Speedway. And then we ended up on Friday and Saturday. And Friday night we'll be at La Crosse, Kansas, which is Bull Ring Nationals, which also pays $1,000 to win. And then we finish up the whole tour in Belleville during the Midget Nationals. When we call the Belleville 305 Nationals, that pays $2,000 to win. And it's just going to be a fun week of racing for everybody. We're going to work up some sponsorship to have a little points money at the end of the deal for the Speed Week champion, and try and invite everybody to put that on your calendars. Come out and watch, or come out and race with it. And I think you guys will have a great time. These guys are a good bunch of guys to race with.
Do you run these cars on that big track at Belleville or the smaller track?
No, the big track.
Oh man, what's that like running these cars on that big Belleville track?
It's neat. It really is. I mean, they're so evenly horsepowered that they all stay real close together as a rule. It makes for a great show. And you know, a lot of the people's problem, we were a little concerned about it for a long time about the load, the motor problems, because Belleville's really known for being hard on motors.
Right.
But I think out of the 5 or 6 times we've been to Belleville, I think we've only lost one motor.
Huh. Again, that could be a reflection back on the wing. Before we let you go, Rick, I don't know about you, but I was a little disappointed to see that the folks out there in Jetmore decided to do their own 305 thing. You've been very supportive of that racetrack, and you've had huge car counts when the national tour is there.
I agree with you. I don't understand that. But,
I don't get it.
I don't either. It's you know, you bust your tail to support a racetrack and help get it going with new owners and the whole deal, and then they I guess they felt that's best for what their racetrack is. And I don't think because there's a lot of these drivers are real loyal to this series, and they understand what little outlaw stuff kind of does to it. It splits everybody up. So I don't know. I hope they have a good show, and I wish them the best of luck. But I wish they would have kept it. We could have made it a whole lot better if they'd have kept it URSS.
I agree. We'll leave it at that. Rick, thanks so much for being on the show with us. Check them out on their website. UnitedRebelSprintCarSeries.com, correct?
UnitedRebelSprintSeries.com.
Right. Okay, and thanks for being a part of Racing Boys Radio and Michael Wilson and bringing your product to our broadcasting company. We're proud to have you on board and looking forward to doing it again this year, bud.
All right, buddy. Thank you guys for all you do, and appreciate the phone call and the interview, and you guys have a good weekend.
All right, Rick. Thanks,
you.
Rick.
All right, buddy.
All right.
There he is. Boy, he's a great guy. Rick Salem.
Hard-working
United
guy,
Rebel.
too.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you something. That guy is not afraid of work right there.